Inside the Huddle with Sky Sports, Neil Reynolds and Jeff Reinebold.
Yes, hello. Welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of Inside the Huddle, looking back on week 4 in the NFL. I'm your host, Neil Reynolds, joined as ever by my partner, Jeff Reinebold. And Jeff, more craziness. I mean, in the early games alone, 8 games in the early slate on Sunday, 6 of them decided by one score. It's just a regular thing.
Yeah, and it wasn't even like they were close from – some of them were blowouts, and then all of a sudden we got a game, and then it's down to the wire. So every game kept us in our seats, and great TV. And, you know, again, you guys did a great job on the show. And man, oh man, Neil, how about that crowd in Ireland?
I know there's gonna be a regular season game in Dublin soon. I mean, surely you cannot deny that 800 people at a watch party. The shots that we sent back from Sky were just one of the 2 rooms. There were 2 rooms. There were another 300 people in a different room. So, yeah, I mean, we've seen it. We've been on the road. We've been in those fan events. And it's no different than when you go to a fan event in London or Manchester. Actually, they're probably hungry. They're really hungry for it. They're dying for it.
Well, it's amazing. And you know, for a watch party, and when they started waving the terrible towels, you'd have thought you were in Pittsburgh. I mean, it was really electric in that room.
Yeah, that's 2 they've done, the Steelers. 3rd time lucky for them. Let's see if they can win at one of their watch parties. Let's talk about the games then. We're going to start actually with Sunday Night Football because it was such a huge game. Baltimore against Buffalo, and Derrick Henry ran all over the Buffalo Bills. So he carried the ball 24 times, 199 yards and a touchdown right from the get-go. 87-yard touchdown on his first carry of the game. Jeff, as a team, Baltimore rushed for 271 yards and 2 touchdowns. Last week against Dallas, 274 on the ground and a touchdown. So in the last 2 weeks, as they've evened up their record, Baltimore have rushed for 545 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, you know, and Neil, it's the thing that is so incredible about this to me is, and what really makes you feel good if you're a Baltimore fan, is that, you know, in this day and age in the NFL where you don't hit each other in practice and you don't tackle in practice, and this type of offense is so different from anything you'll see. You know, Chris Collinsworth on the broadcast did a great job of making the analogy of it's like playing a service academy, Navy or Army, as a college football team, right? Because you see an offense that you never see the rest of the year. And so you've got to prepare for something in 1 week, in 3 days. And it's almost impossible.
So many of Lamar's throws that he was able to make came off the threat of Henry, didn't it, as well? I mean, there was, especially in the first half, there was very little where Lamar had to push the ball downfield. There was screen passes, there was rollouts off a play action with a quick pass to Justice Hill. It just felt like Lamar didn't have to push the envelope because they'd established so much on the ground.
Yeah, and you know what? I think what's been added to the offense now is misdirection. Because there were some plays, they had players moving in opposite directions, the line going one way, the backs and the receivers going the other way. The play action game is so good for them. And it really helps Lamar, who still does not look comfortable when he sits in the pocket and just plays as a quarterback. But when he is on the perimeter and he's got the ball with a run pass option, and his throwing has improved. The ball he threw to Aguilar early in the game where he fitted in between 2 defenders, I thought was a tremendous throw.
Yeah, I think we're now seeing, aren't we, Jeff, what they envisioned when they looked at bringing in Derrick Henry. Look, they started 0-2, but they could have very easily beaten the Chiefs. It was a toe over the line from Isaiah Likely at the end of that game. This is what they wanted to see, wasn't it? Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, and actually, if you watch on the runs of Derrick Henry and you watch when Lamar runs, you can't just be a wide receiver in Baltimore. Zay Flowers was blocking his backside off when Lamar ran into the end zone.
You know, everybody blocks. And then you factor in, you've got 300-pound Pat Ricard playing fullback.
I mean,
it is really a unique offense, and they've gone and committed themselves wholly to it. I mean, it is what they do, and they're going to do it. Now, when it gets to playoff time, that'll be the test. That'll be the true test. Does he throw well enough to make enough plays to win in playoff football? And again, if they can rush for 275, he doesn't have to make a whole lot of throws. And I think that's going to be the key.
Yeah, you just never know in the playoffs. Like, it's a great point. You never know if you're going to find yourself in trouble. You had a slow start. You're down by 10. You got to air it out. You got to chase the game. That you have to be ready to do all those things come the postseason.
Yeah, and one of the things that was a concern to me about Baltimore in the first two games was they were the most highly penalized team in the NFL, Neil. And that's not a Harbaugh team. And I thought last night they really settled into that game and played really not error-free, but I thought they played extremely well. And, when we saw Taylor Rapp go down trying to tackle Derrick Henry, that was like a warning signal to defensive backs and linebackers around the league. This man is a full-grown man, and you better strap it up when you go tackling.
Well, people don't just – I think people still think of, with Derrick Henry, and then we'll move on, last bit on this game, and then we'll move on. You still think of Derrick Henry, power back, and he's going to wear down defenders. He's going to give you the stiff arm. I saw it at Tottenham last year, Jeff, him running away from defenders. I mean, he should have been caught from behind at some point, surely, by one of those safeties. They weren't that far behind him on the 87-yard touchdown run. I mean, Derrick Henry can still run away from defenders at the age of 29.
No question. And interesting comparison last night on the broadcast, comparing him to Eric Dickerson, because they're both bigger backs, 6'3" or above, and they both have an upright running style. But when he got out on that 87-yard run, you're exactly right, Neil. They had angles, and you would say that Damar Hamlin and Taylor Rapp are going to track him down. He's a 247-pound back, but he pulled away from him down the last 20 yards.
Yeah, very impressive. It was an impressive start for the Minnesota Vikings. So they jumped out to a 28-0 lead at Lambeau Field against the Green Bay Packers. First place in the NFC North on the line. Jeff, they win 31-29, but they have to hang on and field an onside kick at the end. So, I mean, this is just one of those games that it's hard to explain. And as a coach, you're living and dying on every play, letting them hang around.
I shouldn't say that. Very, very close to 1,000 yards of total offense in this game. The Packers actually outgained the Vikings, but turnovers, as they normally do, told the story of the game. Darnold 20-28 again, 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. When is Cinderella going to lose the glass slipper? I mean, he is really the ball. How about the ball to Jefferson?
Oh, that's one of the best throws I've ever seen. I mean, Jeff, we were talking in the studio about this, and you a back shoulder throw, you would expect the receiver to eventually have to turn and work back to it a little bit. He threw it at the back of the guy's helmet.
I have no idea how that ball got in there, but I mean, it was the only place it could go, and the thing I was concerned about from a Packer standpoint was Jordan Love coming off that knee against a flow defense that's going to send people from all over the place, and they did, and they made it hard on him. And the 3 interceptions I think were the biggest difference between the two teams in the game.
Yeah, 4 takeaways from the Minnesota defense. Darnold in the first half, he had just 4 incompletions, 3 touchdown passes, so did most of his work in the first half. The comeback kind of maybe takes a little bit of the shine off it for the Vikings. But, Jeff, there were long periods of that game where they looked complete, didn't they?
Yeah, and, and they're starting to get healthier now, too. Addison's going to be back full speed real soon. I think fans in London are going to see a great football team because, I'm not big on throwing, kudos around like that. But I really do think they're a great football team because they attack you on defense with so many looks and so many pressures. And then offensively, they can run it and they can throw it. And Darnold, you called it. I'm going to go back to you one more time, and I throw you a bouquet. But you called it before the season. You said you felt he was going to have a good year.
Yeah, so far so good. Yeah, it's not a Sky game, this one, but it is a good one if you're going to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium this Sunday, October the 6th. The Minnesota Vikings against the New York Jets. Get to see Aaron Rodgers, although he's coming off a very disappointing 10-9 loss at home to the Denver Broncos. Let's move on to Tampa Bay then, where the Buccaneers, Jeff, they're trying to lift the whole community. Hurricane Helene hit that region so hard again last week. And those sort of things do inspire teams, don't they? I mean, Baker Mayfield had a great game, 347 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He added a rushing touchdown. All the while, Tom Brady is watching from above, commentating on the game. But you'd hope that the Bucs lifted the spirits of a community there. That can happen, can't it, with a team and its people?
No question. We saw it in New Orleans when Katrina went through New Orleans and just devastated the city.
Yep.
Saints football was the thing that brought the city back and gave the city hope and life again. And I think the same thing is true for Tampa Bay. That storm was really nasty. There were college football games canceled on Saturday. You know, the Clemson team couldn't even get to their team hotel. They had no power in the team hotel, so the kids had to sleep wherever they could sleep the night before the game. It devastated the Southeast, and for the state of Florida, which is right in Hurricane Alley, it was a tough one and a great way to kind of start to dig your way out.
We always think of these players as almost like machines who rock up at 1 p.m. Eastern on a Sunday or 6 o'clock in the UK and just play for our pleasure. But they've got their families, they've got all their lives to deal with. Baker Mayfield had to evacuate the area. Many Bucs players had to evacuate the area. And they're creatures of habit, Jeff. They've got to still get their practice in. They've got to get their work in. And for them to come out and handle the Eagles, yes, it's an Eagles team with no A.J. Brown, no Devontae Smith. But they handled the Eagles easily. And you think after that sort of week, it's just a great reminder that these players have to balance stuff off the field as well.
Yeah, and Neil, you used a good term. They handled the Eagles. They physically handled the Eagles. They averaged 4.4 yards a carry running the football, and Tampa's not a team that you think about as a running football team, but they did. And Mayfield's 30 of 47, and 2 touchdowns. I thought that one of the telltale stories to me was they sacked a guy who's tough to sack, should be tough to sack,
right?
Tough to sack 6 times. Jalen Hurts went down 6 times in that game.
Good.
There's something not right with this Eagles team. They're just, I know they got behind, and Barkley, they couldn't run him. He averaged 8 yards a carry, 8.4 yards a carry on 10 carries. But once you get so far behind, you got to get away from the run. This Eagles team has a label on it, Neil, that you never want to get, and that's underproducing, right? And they've got too many good players to lose games like this.
And a lot of it, not necessarily in this game, but in other games, a lot of it's self-inflicted. They turn
exactly.
Now.
Exactly. And when you have a roster like they have, and I know it's not, we say it all the time, it's not collecting football cards, but those are, you're talking about guys that have demonstrated high level of play, and they're just not playing well. They're just not, to go down there and get beat 33-16, that's a gut check for the Eagles.
Yeah, after winning so well in New Orleans. So that's, again, they can't find the consistency. They're a classic example of that. Good one week, bad the next.
Yeah, and that's not the way you want to be as if you want to win a championship.
Well, no, we're a month in now as well, so you got to be. We know we say all that about there's no training camps. It takes a while to find yourself. We're a month in now.
Yeah, and what you found with the Eagles is that they are consistently inconsistent.
They are who we thought they were. No, we won't go there.
I love it.
Let's move on to, so Houston had a late win against Jacksonville. Strap yourself in, Jeff. I'm going to announce this name. The winning touchdown was scored by Dare Ogunbowale. I did that, I think. With 18 seconds left. So Houston get the win to move to 3-1. I want to talk about the Jags for a second though, Jeff, because they dropped to 0-4. I spent a decent amount of time with Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence in the summer. Both talked about they got to find ways to finish. They got to find ways to win these games, these types of games. They're up 20-17. Tank Bigsby has a long run down the sideline. I thought he was going in for a touchdown. He just steps out of bounds on like the 4-yard line. Then the next time I look on red zone, it's 4th and goal. So they're going for it. They needed to go for it, as the score turned out in the end. Quarterback draw up the middle was never there. It got shut down straight away. And you opened the door for CJ Stroud. And Jacksonville had an opportunity. They didn't take it. I just want to read you this quote from Doug Peterson. Jags have now lost, by the way, 9 of their last 10, dating back to last season. And Doug Peterson said, "As coaches, we can't go out there and make the plays. It's a two-way street. I'm sure that's true, but I'm not sure it's the best time to be saying it." What's your thoughts on that?
And I like Doug very much, and and he was our quarterback in '94 in NFL Europe, and I think a great guy and a very good coach. But those are not the things you want to have out in the media. And I thought too, Neil, I don't know if you caught this, but there was a question about his job security, and he just kind of replied, "Nope." Like, was he concerned about his job security? And he replied, "Nope." Well, I think if he's honest, he better be, because that's a team that now, what is it, 8 straight they've lost going back into last year?
So no, they lost. They were 5 of the last 6 last year. So 9 of their last 10. But Trevor has lost his last 9 starts because the one win he wasn't playing. So as you look at the Jags as their very best offering with Trevor Lawrence at quarterback, that's right. 9 in a row. Yeah.
And, again, that's not the way you want to be trending. And it's got to change. They've got to find ways to win instead of finding ways to lose. And I agree with you. I was really shocked by that call. They went to empty, and everybody knows if you go to empty down on the goal line, the defensive linemen are going to check into all kind of stunts because they've got to be able to handle quarterback draw. That's the number one thing you think when somebody goes to empty down there.
Right. So that's where it's really good to get your insight as a coach. So that's something then we maybe look at that and just think, oh, that was a funny play call. But actually, that's one of the very first things you're looking at as a deep. If he's not throwing, he's the only one who can run that football. So it was flawed in terms of the formation and the call then, in a way.
Yeah, because like I say, I mean, those are the things that you teach defensive lines. If they go to empty, particularly down there, it's going to be quarterback draw. They're not going to empty to throw it. They're going to empty because you can't protect it, right? So you're going to get quarterback draw, and they just squatted on it. They just absolutely defended the play, and he wasn't able to get the ball in the end zone, and it changed the game.
Yeah, Jags are 0-4 now. They play Indianapolis next week. Then they head to London, where they'll play Chicago on October the 13th at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and the Patriots on October the 20th at Wembley Stadium. Jeff, they have to win all 3.
Yeah, and it's so different now. It really, really is. We used to say you really just tried to get to the halfway point at 500 and then get hot towards the end. But you can't do that anymore. If you come out and you go 0-5 or 0-6, it's almost impossible to make the playoffs, to get to the playoffs. And that's what everybody wants to do, is get to the dance. So if this season is going to not just spiral into the depths, they've got to start stringing some wins together.
Yeah, let me apologize to Texans fans. It was a good win. It was a late win, but the reason I went that way with the conversation, Jeff, is because I don't even think that's a warming seat for Doug Peterson now. I think it's hot.
I agree with you. But here's, if you're a Texans fan, man, oh man, do you got a quarterback, because his demeanor during a game is almost. I've never seen a guy more in control of his emotions and everything during the game. It's almost like he plays the game at whatever speed he decides he wants to play the game at.
I wrote down here, Jeff, CJ Stroud, icy.
It's great. That's a great way to describe it, because he just doesn't get flustered. Even like when he gets out of the pocket and he's going to run out of bounds, he kind of like does it at his own speed. There's it's like he's in total control of the game.
I'll do this when I want to do this. Let's talk about another young quarterback. So Washington beat the Arizona Cardinals 42-14. Jayden Daniels let me just go back to Monday Night Football. Monday Night Football against the Bengals, he went 21 of 23. Last night, he goes 26 of 30, 233 yards, a touchdown. He rushes for 47, and he scores a touchdown on the ground. And Jeff, he has the highest completion percentage through 4 games in NFL history, 82.1, ahead of a guy, 82.1% completion percentage as a rookie, ahead of a guy, Brady, Tom Brady. You heard of him? He had like 79%. So, I mean, wow for Jayden Daniels.
You know, when he was coming out, Neil, I did a light comparison because you always do a light comparison. Who's he remind you of? And I said Michael Vick.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he is a much, in my opinion, having watched him now for 4 games, he's a much more advanced thrower than Michael Vick was when Michael came out of Virginia Tech. They both are electric with their legs. They can just out. I mean, he might be faster than Lamar. I mean, he is really, really special with the ball in his hands. But he is a much, much more developed passer. And what's interesting, Neil, when I've watched him the last 2 weekends, there have been 2 instances where there've been a free runner coming right into his face. And I mean, right into his face. And he stands in there and delivers. The one touchdown two weeks ago was unbelievable.
That was. So he threw the ball when he had a defender coming off the edge, a blitz off a defensive back right in his face. Terry McLaurin is at the 20-yard line, Jeff, when Jayden Daniels releases the ball. Terry McLaurin catches it 2 yards from the back of the end zone. You're throwing it 28 yards in front of your receiver with a man in your face and bucket dropping it in like that. I mean, that was so incredible. That was because a lot of his throws have been quick passes. They've used the short game pretty well, but he can do it all. We saw that against the Bengals.
Yeah, do not crowd the line of scrimmage on this guy, because if you give him a chance, he'll air it out over your head in a heartbeat.
Big day for Cliff Kingsbury. He's the offensive coordinator of Washington. He was the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, got fired by that team. But where it was good, Jeff, is they help out Jayden Daniels. Now, he probably doesn't need it at the moment. He's playing really, really well and absolutely flourishing. But like we talk about, other quarterbacks don't have the help around them, whether it be offensive line, running game. Washington ran the football 37 times, 216 yards, and 4 touchdowns.
That's the recipe. When you have a dual threat quarterback like this kid is, and you know, Kyler Murray was not as good a thrower, not as accomplished thrower, but was certainly the same dual threat quarterback. The run pass option, the RPO game, he really excels at it, and it puts so much stress on the defense. And if you're gonna sit back and you're gonna try and play coverage and you play too high shell, they're gonna hand the ball off all day and just run the ball on you. And then as soon as you get out of that and drop another defender down on the line of scrimmage, he's good enough with the RPO game to just slice you to pieces underneath. 82% completions over 4 games. That's a good chunk of work, and 82% is unheard of numbers.
Jeff, when we're talking about new head coaches in the NFL this season, or if we're just talking about head coaches in general and giving them their flowers, how far down the list do you think we'd get before we got to Dan Quinn? Because
too far. That's how.
They're 3-1.
Yeah. And you know what? The thing about Dan Quinn is, I think he's an outstanding football coach, technical football coach, but he's an outstanding communicator.
Yeah.
And a guy that gets it. If you notice tonight, he said after the game, he said, we have a number of game balls we're going to give out when we get back to Washington, but we're giving one out right now. And it was to Cliff. And, you know, and I think those are the kind of things that when a head coach is that tuned in to his staff and to the people that he works with, those things mean so much to a coach. Because, you know, Cliff was embarrassed. He had to go back to college football to resurrect his career. Yeah. And what a way to be recognized by your peers and by your boss.
Yeah, what a night. Let's do one more game, then we're going to make our picks for Player of the Week, and Jeff's going to pick his Coach of the Week. It was Kansas City beating the LA Chargers 17-10. So the Chiefs moved to 4-0. All their wins have been by 1 score. Let me give you a little backdrop to this game. So coming into this game, Patrick Mahomes had thrown 5 touchdown passes, 4 interceptions. He was averaging 220 passing yards per game, a rating of 89.9 on Sunday, which was his 100th career start. 245 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, a rating of 89. So, Jeff, by no means through the first month of this season has Patrick Mahomes lit it up. But this team finds a way. They find a way every single week. Every week. And there was adversity left, right, and centre here because Rashee Rice goes out, probably for the season with a torn ACL, we think.
Yeah. And it's not gonna get any easier. And this is, again, I think, a credit to Andy Reid. And the way he approaches the game. And, when you look at it, they lose Rashee Rice, but who comes back on the scene? Travis Kelce, 9 targets, 7 catches in the game, 87 yards. Didn't score a touchdown, but you could feel Travis Kelce in the offense again. And then Xavier Worthy, Neil, for a raw rookie, he averages 24.3 again, right? 3 catches, he averages 24 yards per catch. Those are video game numbers.
Well, he came back on the scene, Jeff, as well in a way, because he had a good first week, then a quiet couple of weeks, and now Rice goes down. So you have to find a way. As we talk, this is the theme of the Chiefs, find a way. Rashee Rice goes down. Worthy suddenly steps onto the scene. Like you said with Kelce, 8 for 69 coming into the game on the season. He betters the yardage already in one game. And Worthy, they've just ran him either straight down the field, Jeff, for the touchdown, or straight across the field for the conversion that won the game at the end. It's like, either way, we're running this kid straight and you can't keep up with it.
Yeah, exactly. Because no matter whether he runs that way or that way, he's running really fast. I think too, it's so good to watch a guy that really excel and really find his kind of vibe and his groove. And you see what Spags is doing with that defense. I mean, how many people would, when you say, okay, name me a great linebacker in the NFL, how many are going to say Drew Tranquil?
No.
Unless you're a Chiefs fan, you're not, right? But he finds ways to get guys to perform at his, really high level, even though they may not be that guy, or he puts guys in position to do what they can do well. And then Chris Jones, again, 4 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, dominated the line of scrimmage by himself. I mean, he's a transcendent player. To me, you talk about Crosby and there's a number of them, but he's one of the top defensive linemen in the National Football League without a question.
Yeah, so when we watched this game on Sky, Jeff, yes, Justin Herbert couldn't move. We knew that. Right? You could see how heavily that right ankle was taped. He's got the high ankle sprain. But what strikes me, we always know that Spags can blitz, and we know that he's going to dial up the ones. And the one at the end where Chris Jones ends up coming through and getting the pressure and getting to Justin Herbert was classic Kansas City. But the Chargers, who've been really trying to establish the run with J.K. Dobbins through the first 3 weeks of the season, rushed for 55 yards. So it's more than just rushing the passer with this Chiefs defense. We're talking about a complete defense now.
Yeah, they do whatever they need to do. I mean, if you're a running team, they can stop the run. If you're a throwing team, they're going to, they can cover you and blitz you. And it's just a really, really good combination. It's more, it's the sum more than the parts, right? And again, they've got a couple great players, but they've got a lot of really good players who accept their role and take their role and do their job, to a high level. So, Andy on the other side and you look at their offense, how many guys have they gone through since they really became the bully on the block? We've seen tackle changes, center changes, running backs by committee, wide receivers in and out. I mean, it's amazing. And they just keep finding a way.
Yeah, they keep plugging in different players. Are the pedestrian numbers because of the people around him, or is there something not quite right with the form of Patrick Mahomes?
I think we make too much of that kind of thing because the bottom line is, it's these, right? It's W's.
Yep.
It's how many of those you get. And he, I think, gets that too. Right now, I'm sure he'd like to throw for 350 yards and all that. But I think what drives him when you watch him play, and I would like to hear your input on this, but I see a guy that is so totally focused on winning the game that
Yeah.
it seeps out his pores.
He has been very influenced by the Brady carrot that's dangling. 7 Super Bowls. And yes, he's got a long way to go. He's only won 3, but only, goodness me, he's only won 3. What a bum! Get him out of here. He's only won 3. Let me rephrase. He's got a way to go to catch up Tom Brady, but he is influenced by what Brady did in New England. Brady would work with Detroit. Yes, he had Randy Moss one year, but he would work with Troy Brown, Edelman, Welker, a bunch of different David Givens. A bunch of different players. I feel like Mahomes is the same way. It's about the win. It's not about the numbers. It's about the legacy. This is why, Jeff, I think he's the 13th highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah. You know what? That's a perfect word. You used the exact word, legacy. I think that's his legacy of being a champion. And he, I do believe, is chasing Tom and wants to be the guy that's recognized as the winningest, not the best quarterback, not the biggest arm, but the winningest quarterback in NFL history.
Well, you can only win them one at a time. He can only have won 4 by this stage of the season. He's won 4, so good job for Mahomes and the Chiefs. Let's pick our awards then. I mean, Player of the Week, Jeff, I can't look past Derrick Henry. I know it's an obvious one, but when you're rushing for 199 and a touchdown, the only blot on his copybook was he could have got to 200. He fumbled at the goal line, but even that went Baltimore's way. Big old Ricard fell on it for a touchdown.
It was. I kind of was like, at the end of the game, they got him in there and they're running him the last, I think 2 of the last 3 plays of the the game, and I'm thinking to myself, Harbaugh, get him out of there. There's not work. But they wanted to get him 200 yards.
And they wanted to get him 200, and I also think the more he can wear people down at the end, they're probably saying to Buffalo, we might see you in January. You're going to remember what Derrick Henry did to you.
I tell you what, I don't know if Taylor Rapp will remember, because Taylor Rapp may not remember that hit. But I went with Jayden Daniels, and I did that because of the historic context of what that kid's done. You think about all the great quarterbacks that have played in the in our game, and to have a 4-game run like he's had, where nobody in the history, not Dan Marino, not Joe Montana, not Tom Brady, none of them have done what that kid's done. That's why I picked him as my Player of the Week.
Last year, we had a lot of conversations about how the number 2 pick outplayed the number 1, CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. Caleb Williams had a lovely touchdown throw, and the Bears won to even up their records. So that's going to still go on, those two, Caleb and Jayden Daniels. Coach of the Week, Jeff, who you got?
Well, I gave a shout out to one of my old players, and it's Vance Joseph, the defensive coordinator of the Denver Broncos. They held the Jets to 2.8 yards a carry. They sacked Aaron Rodgers 5 times, and Aaron Rodgers, quarterback rating against Denver Bronco and the Bronco defense, without Alex Singleton, their best player, who they lost a week ago, 31.8. So kudos to you, Vance Joseph.
So I saw the other day, if you have a passer rating in the 30s, it means you could drop back, spike it into the ground 30 times, and you'd still have a better rating than the 30s. And Bo Nix threw for 60 yards, 60, and won an NFL game. Tell you what, Jeff, if Nathaniel Hackett was thinking, I'll show you, Sean Payton, I'll show you how I run an offense, that backfires.
No.
It won't. There'll be no taking my coach's name out of your mouth. Speak from Aaron Rodgers this week. So
absolutely.
All right. So that is our week 4. There is still a couple of games to come on Monday Night Football. We've got the Tennessee Titans and the Miami Dolphins, and Seattle visit Detroit as well. So both those games are on if you're listening on a Monday. And Jeff, it's London game week. I'm off to do lots of writing.
Man, I'm telling you, I am so jealous of you right now, because I love the way that city comes alive, and it's like a little Super Bowl week, And yes, it is. You guys will have an incredible. You're going to Germany. I mean, it's going to be a blast, absolutely a blast.
You'll be over soon enough, Jeff. You just got to do your coaching first. Do your day job first. After that, watch those kids in Hawaii and then come and see us.
All right, man.
All right. So myself and Jeff will be back next Monday to break down week 5 in the NFL. I'll be back with Phoebe on Thursday to look ahead to week 5. Until next Monday, Jeff, say goodbye to the good folks.
Aloha.